Platzi, educación profesional efectiva.
Tom is the partner manager and head of live training at Blade. He's also former sales engineer, check that out, and certified expert. It's the one and only Tom Gray. So welcome and thank you for accepting our invitation, Tom. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. We're very excited. And we also know that you are, physically located somewhere else in the world. So where are you right now, Tom?
I'm here in rainy, cold London in the UK.
Nice. So Tom is right now from London, all the way from another continent, sharing here his experience. And before I start with the questions that I have for you, Tom, I would like you first to tell us a little bit about that interesting background that you have, because I understand you have been a mental health advocate and you also have some background in music. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my first career was as a jazz pianist. I was a professional musician. So I don't actually, I confess, I don't have a coding background. It was a slow transition into tech, but I've never looked back.
I'm pretty sure, and I actually relate, to that story, because at the beginning of, my young years, I also studied something different and then I switched. And I also have passion for many other things. So that's great. That's great. And now you are in this, no code world, and we are here to learn a lot from you. So here it is, my first question, Tom. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. So in a tweet, Tom, how would you summarize what no code is?
That's a great question. I would say that low code enables individuals to build powerful software without having to write code.
I think that's a perfect definition for me. I like coding. I've taken a couple of courses at Platzi, of course, and that's a whole new world. So understanding how no code works, that's going to be perfect for me. Let me tell you that. Tom, excellent tweet. Excellent tweet. My second question is actually along those lines, because for someone who hasn't studied, code at all in their life, is no code difficult to learn? What do you think?
No, it's a great question. I'll answer it in two ways. One is, how long's a piece of string? It really depends on the complexity of what you're trying to build, and how big you want this outcome, this piece of software that you're trying to realize. But I would say for anybody who has an interest in puzzle solving, low code is a fantastic opportunity where you can skyrocket a project, because you don't have to learn the base level language. You don't have to learn, in other words, you don't have to learn how to code. You're able to take sort of off the shelf. I explain it to clients as Lego blocks. And you can create lots of different structures using that, but you're not having to build the brick itself, which, if you humor the analogy, is much like how some individuals consider coding.
Yes, this is perfect for people who want to build, new things, to create great projects, great things without understanding all the basics and all the fundamentals of coding. Because it's also, it's a whole new world, it's a new language. That's great. I'm actually curious now. I'm not too much into this, developing and programming world, but now that I understand a little bit more about how no code works, now I'm curious. Tom, thank you for that.
Well, it's a very exciting, very abundant time at the moment for individuals. It's the first time individuals have been empowered to be able to create software. We can get more into it, but we're certainly seeing that in the corporate space, especially, it's giving the power back to the employees to start solving their own problems. Whereas before, you'd have a problem and you'd usually have to go and approach and plead with an IT department, and it usually was very, very expensive and very time consuming. So it's a real game changer.
Yes, definitely. And here I'm going to switch a little bit to Spanish just to make sure that, everyone who's watching is following us. Y aquí nos cuenta Tom que finalmente no code es esta opción que tenemos todos y todas para generar proyectos, para iniciar en este mundo digámoslo, de la programación sin tener que pasar por todos los fundamentos o conocer todos los detalles o los pormenores de diferentes estilos de programación. Es una forma relativamente sencilla de escalonar procesos, y se ha visto como una herramienta para que las empresas brinden, digamos que esa autonomía, ¿no? a las personas de construir nuevas cosas, nuevas herramientas a través de esta forma diferente de programar. Así que volviendo al inglés, switching back to English just to make sure everyone, is on the same page with us here. Tom, I would like you to tell me to answer this question, and is what kind of, projects have you or what was the first project kind of thing that you developed in this no code world? Some people are asking that question, and they're curious to know what was the first thing you did with no code?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was thrown in the deep end with low code. My first project was building a communications tool for a law firm in the States. And I use Glide as the tool. But since then, I've been working on everything from legal to administrative to HR to, my mother runs a nursery school. I built an app to help her staff and the parents. So it's a real spectrum. That's the beauty of this space at the moment. It's not confined to just the corporates or just to individuals who come from a coding background. We're bowled over with what our community and our customers at Glide are producing. It's quite amazing.
Wow, aquí nos dice Tom que la ventaja del no-code es que nos permite a quienes, por ejemplo, no estamos de lleno en el mundo de la programación o no tenemos ese bagaje o esa experiencia, lanzarnos al mundo de crear cosas a través de este no-code, de este no-código. Así que nos comparte diferentes proyectos, inclusive una app que logró desarrollar para apoyar en la industria. That's fantastic. I didn't know, honestly, Tom, we could do all those things with no code. And I'm even more curious now and interested in exploring this field. Now, this is a present, this is in present times. How do you see no code in the future? Let's say 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah, I think it will replace traditional processes, most certainly in companies. We're seeing, as I mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of individuals, employees of firms and large corporations. And not just, that's one side of it. You've also got, individuals wanting to create an MVP for their startup, or to create, tools on a smaller scale. I think that there's going to be more of a demand for low coders working in companies because you can maximize the output. You can get a huge amount done for very, very little input. Of course, anybody with a coding background will appreciate that, if you're building it from scratch, it can be very, very costly and very, very time consuming. So I see within 5 to 10 years, just to give you an idea, a couple of clients that we've had discussion with, they're more interested in individuals with low code skills for of course, that's subject to what they're trying to achieve. But there's a huge thirst, there's a huge demand for it, and I only see that increasing.
That's impressive because that opens, the world to several other and different possibilities for those who are thinking about, what to do in the future, or if someone is, thinking about choosing another career path. This could be an option right? And now considering
Absolutely.
all you have said about the future of this technology, okay? And well, obviously there are great things you can do with no code. Are there any limitations when it comes to building or creating things, Tom?
It is it's very, very early days, and I haven't yet experienced many limitations. Of course, there are some it depends on the platform that you're using, of course. But, just referencing what I mentioned before about what our wonderful community at Glide are producing, week on week, we're seeing these amazing ideas and projects surface. So it's a fast growing space. I haven't yet had any issues with the limitations of low code. If anything, it's been, they've been very enticing USPs, especially if you're pitching them to the corporate market.
Tom nos cuenta que no ha experimentado limitaciones como tal aún, porque pues estamos en un proceso apenas de crecimiento de esta estrategia, de esta herramienta, pero pues que inevitablemente en el proceso se dará esto como cualquier proceso de construcción, ¿no? Nos dice también que en un futuro, en 5 o 10 años, va a ser un lenguaje, va a ser una forma de programación prominente que va incluso a reemplazar formas tradicionales de hacer código, lo cual es bastante interesante. And that leads me to one of our final questions, Tom, and is that thinking about this future, about the future of no code and seeing it in 5 or 10 years as, the new way, to build things, what kind of professional profiles will be required for that industry in the future? Because we have time to prepare ourselves for that, right? So what kind of profiles will be needed, in that future?
Well, we're very excited to learn just that, because we're finding that there's no limitation, or there's no, we don't have a sense, a complete sense yet of the extent of how helpful low code can be. So we're finding that it's individuals working in HR, it's individuals, who might be working as, you might be working in sales. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on and on, just as far as the type of user or the type of customer, the individuals who are using low code to build solutions. So we're really keen to learn the answer to that.
Perfect. Eventualmente nos daremos cuenta de estos perfiles, de estas necesidades propias del mercado. Lo importante es, lógicamente, estar preparados para un futuro pues muy inminente que viene en este sentido. Tom, I'm very curious. I'm gonna start exploring things and I'll let you know how it goes, because it seems like like an easy and entertaining way to explore this world of coding for those who haven't had that interaction with other types of languages before. So yeah. I'll try and I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, that's great. And it's really fun when you're able to see instant results. It's a wonderful thing with low code, is that you can very quickly, within a couple of hours, less days versus weeks and months, compared to what it used to be, within a very short period of time, you can start seeing the app or the website that you've built or whatever product you're looking to create.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure that once you see your first creation, alive, that should be very motivating, right? That should be very encouraging, and that allows you to keep building things and creating things. So that's amazing. I'm glad to learn that here with you today. Now, Tom, any other final comments, any other, pieces of advice that you would like to share with our audience on how to use no code for the future?
I think because it is a plug in and play experience, it's very easy, as I said, to start materializing software. It's very important to remain as goal oriented or as results oriented as possible, because very, very quickly you can lose track of what it's all for. So I would say, try and keep your eye on the prize as much as possible. But I'd also say, have fun with it. It's great that we can build also MVP so quickly. I mean, that's one of the huge advantages of low code is if you want to test an idea, you can do it pretty inexpensively and you can build a tool. I'd really encourage getting things user tested as much as possible and as early as possible and get that critical feedback. But it's a really abundant space. I wish you all the very, very best of luck.
Perfect. Tom nos cuenta acá que no code es una forma fácil y relativamente económica de que nos lancemos con nuestros MVPs, de que probemos cosas nuevas, de que intentemos y que experimentemos, porque es un sistema que nos permite rápidamente lanzar algo, crear algo, lanzarlo, probarlo y entender su funcionamiento y obtener feedback. Así que para un mercado como el nuestro, que está tan cambiante y tan creciente, pues es una alternativa bastante, bastante interesante. Tom, thank you so much. I really want to thank you on behalf of Platzi. I think we've learned a lot from your experience and from your knowledge and expertise in this field of no code. We want to open the doors to keep collaborating with you, and thank you so much for your time. I also understand, you are in a different part of the world and you've taken some time to share your knowledge with us. So I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for that.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Tenemos un curso gratis solo para ti. Haz clic aquí y empieza las clases del curso de inglés en Platzi. Y si quieres saber más sobre inglés, haz clic en este video que seguro disfrutarás. Nunca pares de aprender. Dale clic, dale. ¿Y qué esperas para darle clic? Oye, y dale clic. En serio, dale clic.